My name is Clayton Gerard, and I like to do storytelling through videography.
So my name is Gabby Coleman, and I'm an architecture major, but my passion is painting.
An issue that's important to me is just like privileged and oppressed identities, especially in religious communities, because there's a lot of people that are excluded in a lot of the conversations and a lot of people that are really privileged in many faith conversations and communities because of just who they are or like who they present as.
And as an individual, separate from my design passion, I'm super interested in social justice. And to me, that means making sure that everyone has a space to be heard.
And that's important because I think these conversations should be open to everyone. I think all of our conversations should be open to people no matter their identity, and not even like just religious communities and faith conversations, but like throughout the world and our communities. We should be open and inclusive of all the identities that are around us.
And on this campus and the spaces that I've been involved in, I feel like people aren't paying attention to that issue and making sure that everyone has a space to be heard. I recognized it specifically within me my third year. Going into my fourth year, there was a lot of tension on campus with racial issues, and that directly affects me.
So right now I'm working on a video project about LGBTQ Christians, and that kind of goes into the privileged and oppressed identities within religious and faith communities, because there's a lot of stigma for LGBTQ people and issues within Christianity. So for people that hold both identities, it's really difficult to try to navigate those conversations and just try to find space where both identities can be accepted and embraced. I hope being able to tell this story can bring more just thoughtfulness and understanding to the conversation, because a lot of people hold different perspectives and they just basically live on opposite ends of the spectrum, and they don't understand what it's like, you know, having these experiences as like being an LGBTQ Christian. They don't understand like everything that goes into it. A lot of times the conversation is just a debate about what's right and wrong, and nobody really realizes what it's like to live within the space in the middle where you're holding both identities and you're just trying to figure out how to make sense of that and how to live a good life within that tension.
At the end of my fourth year, I came back from studying abroad, and I just had this epiphany that I wanted to use my fifth and final year at K-State as an architecture major to say something about social justice, and I wasn't sure how I was going to do it, but I was fortunate enough to take a class that asked me to create art and put it somewhere and make it say something. And so I created a project called More Than a Color, and the idea between the project and what I'm passionate about is that I could say something about being disconnected from a place in which you want to be connected to, and not having the ability to tell your story, and addressing the fact that no one was talking about social issues like social justice by telling people's stories. And through telling other people's stories, I felt like I would have more of a space, especially in architecture college, to tell my story. I felt like I didn't belong in college. My project, More Than a Color, is a series of paintings. They're 2 feet by 6 foot tall panels that have someone's picture on them that I've painted in a specific way to sort of reduce all of the colors that are in my face traditionally, to try and unify the way that I was painting them. So using like 16 to 20 colors to paint a variety of people, a variety of skin tone stories. And under that face, I'm telling their story on their behalf and giving them the space to share when traditionally they're not given the space to share. So I wanted to put the paintings out there to create a conversation, get people talking, but do it in a positive way, in a way that might inspire someone who sees a painted face that looks like them, or a story that they resonate with, and that might inspire them to share their story, but it'll get them talking and tell someone about what they see.
A lot of the challenges that I've been having is just like creating a video that like can be accepted and viewed from both sides, so like LGBTQ people and people that are allies and also like people within these religious communities that don't affirm those identities. So trying to create something that can bring more understanding to both sides has been really difficult because there's been a lot of, like, the feedback that I'm getting is a lot more difficult than I anticipated even from the beginning. Like, I knew it would be hard. So that's just like what I think needs to happen though, is like we need to be telling stories, even if they are flawed, just to like bring more humanity to the conversation and allow people to see more of the experiences and the stories behind the people that we're talking to and even arguing about. Like, these are real people that are living real lives and their experiences matter just like everyone else's. So being able to tell these stories and like trying to tell these stories even when you're like facing criticism and opposition, I think can still be really powerful and productive to, you know, hopefully making the world a better place.
I think my advice for creating a project in general, a project like this, is to not ask for permission. I think my project began to flourish when I found the confidence in myself and the confidence in my work to say that it was good and valid enough to be shown in comparison to any other art pieces or any other architecture pieces, because it was worthy of the attention that it could be getting, and it was doing a good job of, in reference to hosting a conversation. And my sort of advice, I guess, for doing something like what I've done is I think my project became most successful as far as the conversations that it was holding and how I felt about it when I let myself be vulnerable about why I created it and what its intent was. Because at first I just started saying, well, I'm telling other people's stories, but I wouldn't let anyone know my story. And so once I realized that my paintings were definitely a reflection of myself and the way I saw myself at K-State, in the spaces that I wanted to create for other students of color like myself, I realized then that my paintings were stronger than I even realized, and that I'm more rooted in them than I knew before. So definitely look into yourself and sort of reflect on why you're creating what you're creating, because I think it told me a lot about myself and the person that I want to be and the artist that I want to be, and is sort of helping me direct what I want to do with my future because I listen to my paintings.